Imagine handing your customers, like, a VIP pass that lets them check out of your online store in 2 seconds flat.
Sounds like a dream scenario, honestly.
Right. But then imagine realizing that by doing so, you just completely destroyed your average order value and bypassed all of your most profitable upsells.
Yeah, that is the nightmare scenario.
It really is. So today we're doing a deep dive into the back end of your e-commerce store. Specifically, we're looking at those three little toggles: Shop Pay, Apple Pay, and Google Pay.
The big three.
Exactly. We've got this really comprehensive source document here covering basically everything you need to know about Shopify's Express wallets.
And, we are not just talking about payment processing today.
No, we are going to definitively answer the burning questions you're probably asking yourself right now, like, do these add hidden fees? Will they randomly break your checkout architecture? And, well, which of these do you actually need to turn on?
Because those three toggles, they might look like basic administrative settings in a dashboard, but they actually represent a massive fundamental shift in how the digital economy operates.
A shift how, exactly?
Well, we are moving away from this whole era of manual data entry and moving directly into an era of biometric authentication.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get into the actual strategy of, like, where to put these buttons or how they might sabotage your upsells, we really need to understand the mechanism behind them.
Right, the actual technology.
Yeah, because a lot of merchants, they treat Shop Pay, Apple Pay, and Google Pay as just alternative credit card processors, but they aren't actually processors at all, are they?
No, not at all. They are what we call accelerated checkouts or express wallets.
Yeah.
They're essentially highly secure data vaults.
Data vaults. Okay.
Yeah, and the core concept here is tokenization. So when a returning shopper uses one of these, they aren't, pulling out a piece of plastic and typing a 16-digit number into your website's form.
Thank goodness, because nobody likes doing that.
Exactly. Instead, the wallet authenticates the user, usually via a face scan or like a fingerprint on their device, and it hands this heavily encrypted token over to the store.
So the website itself never actually sees the raw credit card number?
Never. It just gets a green light that basically says, this person is who they say they are, and the funds are guaranteed.
Which totally explains why the checkout is so incredibly fast. I mean, you are completely removing the cognitive load of form filling.
100%.
But, whenever big tech companies step in to offer a magic frictionless solution like this, the immediate fear for you as a store owner is the cost.
Oh, absolutely. The hidden fees.
Right. If Apple or Google is acting as this highly secure middleman, the natural assumption is they are taking a cut of every single transaction.
Well, the source data definitively puts that fear to rest right away.
Wait, really?
Yeah, there are absolutely zero extra wallet fees.
Wow.
I know. When you enable Apple Pay, Google Pay, or Shop Pay, you do not pay a premium for that tokenization process. You simply continue to pay the standard processing rate of your underlying payment provider.
So just to clarify, if you are on, say, a basic Shopify plan paying 2.9% plus 30 cents,
you pay that exact same rate, whether a customer manually types in a Visa card or double-clicks their iPhone to use Apple Pay.
Okay, I understand the mechanism, but I'm looking at the incentives here. Big tech companies don't just build massive global payment infrastructures out of the goodness of their hearts.
No, they certainly do not.
So if they aren't charging the merchant a fee, why are they doing this?
They're playing a much longer game. It's all about ecosystem lock-in.
Ecosystem lock-in?
Yeah. Apple wants your credit card so deeply embedded in your iPhone that the very thought of switching to an Android device feels like a complete logistical nightmare.
Oh, that makes total sense.
And Google wants you logged into Chrome everywhere you go. Right. They aren't trying to skim 0.5% off a merchant selling a pair of socks. They are trying to own the entire behavioral habit of how you buy things online.
That ecosystem lock-in makes total sense. But before we look at how Apple and Google fight that turf war, we really need to clean up the jargon in our source material.
Oh, the jargon, yes.
Because the sheer number of things branded with the word shop is a total minefield for any merchant trying to configure their backend.
It's an absolute mess of naming conventions, honestly. We have 4 distinct products here. We've got Shop Pay, the Shop app, Shopify Payments, and Shop Cash.
And they all sound basically identical.
Right, which means merchants are constantly crossing their wires when they're trying to troubleshoot.
Let's anchor this with a physical analogy, because otherwise it's just a giant word salad.
Good idea.
Let's imagine the entire digital shopping experience as a physical trip to the mall.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So the first term is Shop Pay. In this analogy, that is the actual leather wallet you are carrying in your pocket.
Right. It holds your cards, your ID, your shipping address.
Exactly. This is the accelerated checkout button we are actually focusing on today.
Okay, so building on that, the second term is the Shop app. This is the consumer-facing mobile application where buyers track their packages and discover new brands.
So in our analogy, the Shop app is the physical mall layout itself.
Yes, it's the actual building you walk through to window shop and see different storefronts. It is a completely separate channel from your checkout settings.
Right. Okay, and then we have Shopify payments, which is what exactly?
Well, this is the invisible infrastructure. It isn't the mall, and it's definitely not the
So
wallet.
the plumbing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the secure pneumatic tubes hidden inside the walls of the mall that actually move the money from the customer's bank to the merchant's register. It's the back-end gateway that powers the whole operation.
Got it. Which leaves Shop Cash.
Right. Shop Cash is a Shopify-funded rewards program. So if Shopify Payments is the pneumatic tube system, Shop Cash is, it's the bucket of arcade tokens you get as a bonus for walking into the mall.
Arcade tokens. Okay.
Yeah, you can spend them at participating stores, but it is not a wallet, and it is not a payment gateway.
So just to summarize this for everyone, Shop Pay is your wallet, the Shop app is the mall, Shopify Payments is the digital plumbing, and Shop Cash is the arcade tokens.
Perfect summary.
And if you confuse the plumbing with the arcade tokens when you're digging into your store settings, you're going to break something.
Without a doubt. But today, we are focusing purely on the leather wallet in your pocket Shop Pay, alongside its two major rivals, Apple Pay and Google Pay.
Okay, so we've established these wallets are free for the merchant, and they function by passing secure tokens rather than raw data.
Correct.
But if they all essentially do the exact same thing, speeding up checkout, why are there three of them? Like, why clutter the checkout screen with three different buttons?
Because they each have massive blind spots. They are basically engaged in this complementary turf war based entirely on hardware and browser restrictions.
Okay.
Your customers are arriving at your store using very different technological environments, and you need a specific key for each of those locks.
Let's break down those environments based on the source data, maybe starting with Apple.
Sure. So Apple Pay is a premium, highly closed ecosystem. It is strictly bound to Safari and Apple hardware.
Meaning you literally can't use it without an Apple device.
Exactly. A user needs an iPhone running iOS 10 or newer, a Mac with Touch ID, or an Apple Watch. And from the merchant side, you cannot even render the button unless your domain has an active SSL certificate. It demands a highly secure, heavily encrypted environment.
And it doesn't even work globally on all devices, right?
Oh.
Because the text mentions that in mainland China, Apple Pay is exclusively supported in Safari on iOS.
Yeah, you can't just flip the switch and assume global parity. Apple protects its walled garden fiercely.
Okay, so that's Apple. What about Google?
Google Pay casts the widest possible net. It favors the Chrome browser and Android hardware, sure, but its architecture is incredibly flexible. I mean, it works across Firefox, Edge, Opera, and even UC browser.
There's a technical mechanism mentioned in the source that I really want to highlight here. It says Chrome uses the standard payment request API.
Yes.
What does that actually mean for the checkout process?
Well, the payment request API is a total game changer for digital trust.
Yeah.
Historically, the website itself had to build the checkout form and ask for your data.
Right.
With this API, the browser actually intercepts the checkout. Chrome essentially steps in front of the website and says, hey, I will handle the UI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it brings up a native, secure Google interface, authenticates you, and then hands the token back to the store. The website never even handles the sensitive input phase.
That is fascinating. So the browser itself becomes the checkout counter.
Exactly.
Okay, so Apple covers the iOS loyalists, Google covers Android and the open web. Where does Shop Pay fit into this architecture?
Shop Pay is the agnostic peacemaker here. It is not tethered to a specific operating system or browser vendor. It works across basically everything.
Okay, but there's a catch, right?
The primary requirement for Shop Pay is back-end infrastructure. You generally need to be using Shopify Payments as your digital plumbing.
Though I do see a carve-out here for enterprise users or specific regions. Like if you are in Australia, France, or the US, you can apparently use a third-party gateway and still offer Shop Pay.
Yes, but that is the exception. Generally speaking, Shop Pay requires Shopify Payments.
Okay, I have to challenge this whole setup, though.
Go for it.
The source states that mobile made up 56.4% of online transactions in the 2025 holiday season. Over half of all buying is happening on a phone.
Yep.
And in the US mobile market, iOS holds roughly 58%, while Android holds about 42%.
Right. Those numbers represent the absolute baseline of modern commerce. If your checkout requires manual typing, you are actively penalizing the majority of your traffic who are navigating your site with one thumb while standing on a crowded train.
I completely agree that manual typing is a penalty. But if Shop Pay is completely cross-platform, if it works smoothly on both iOS and Android, on both Chrome and Safari, why do I even need Apple Pay and Google Pay? Doesn't Shop Pay just solve the problem for everybody?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to remember that human behavior isn't dictated purely by technical capability.
What do you mean?
It is driven by trust and muscle memory.
Muscle memory, like how a user physically interacts with their phone.
Precisely. Yes, Shop Pay technically works on an iPhone, but an iPhone user has spent years double-clicking the side button of their device to buy their morning coffee, their groceries, their app subscriptions.
Right, it's just a reflex at this point.
Exactly. When they see that Apple Pay button, it triggers zero cognitive load.
Yeah.
They don't have to read it. They don't have to think about it. Their thumb just does the work automatically.
So forcing an Apple user to use Shop Pay, even if it's technically just as fast, introduces a split second of hesitation.
And in e-commerce, a split second of hesitation is where conversions go to die. You don't want to force a customer to adopt a new digital habit right at the finish line of a purchase.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You want to meet them exactly in the ecosystem they already trust. That is why you need all three buttons working in tandem.
Which leads us directly into the conversion data. We know friction kills sales, and the source highlights a statistic that honestly shocked me. 19% of shoppers will completely abandon a checkout if they're forced to create an account.
It speaks volumes about digital fatigue, doesn't it?
It really does.
Asking someone to invent a password, confirm their email, and fill out 12 fields of address data just to buy a t-shirt. It feels like an unreasonable demand on their time. Express Wallets dissolve that friction by entirely bypassing account creation.
But let's look at the actual conversion claims, because I'm a bit skeptical here. The source notes that Shopify claims Shop Pay delivers up to 50% higher conversion than guest checkout. I mean, 50% is a massive number. It sounds like marketing hype.
It is heavily massaged marketing data, and the source text is appropriately critical of it. That 50% figure originates from an April 2023 study conducted by an unnamed Big Three global management consulting firm.
Right, an unnamed firm, undisclosed methodology, and no sample size provided to the public.
Exactly. And the phrasing up to represents a best-case ceiling, right? Not an average expectation. This is a classic trap for store owners. You read a headline claiming 50% higher conversions, and you immediately start forecasting a massive revenue spike in your financial models.
So what does this all mean? If we can't trust the 50% claim, what is the actual reality of how these buttons impact sales?
Well, the real takeaway isn't the inflated percentage, it's the behavioral shift. Even if the conversion bump is only 5% or 10%, that incremental gain is massive at scale.
Right.
And the on-the-ground facts support that shift. 1 in 5 buyers actually chooses Shop Pay when it is offered, and 43% of buyers trust it as their preferred payment method.
Okay, so the behavioral shift is very real, and people use them. But there is a massive technical pitfall outlined in the source. Enabling an Express wallet in your Shopify backend does absolutely nothing for your conversion rate if the button never actually renders on the customer's screen.
The mystery of the invisible button.
Yeah, what is going on there?
This happens constantly. Merchants flip the toggle to on, assume everything is working perfectly, and never realize their customers can't even see the option.
I read through the troubleshooting scenarios in the text, and some of these technical quirks are incredibly bizarre. Like, let's start with the company name issue, because this shows just how fragile these API handshakes can be.
It is a perfect example of conflicting logic. A merchant turns on Apple Pay, but it vanishes at checkout. Why? Because the merchant went into their store settings and made the company name field mandatory for shipping.
But why would asking for a company name break a payment gateway?
Because Apple Pay's biometric wallet doesn't store a company name in its user profiles. So when the browser initiates the handshake with the Shopify checkout, Shopify says, hey, I need an address, a phone number, and a company name. Apple Pay's system looks at its data payload, realizes it cannot fulfill all the required fields, and decides, I cannot complete this transaction.
So it throws an error.
Rather than throwing a complex error to the user, It simply hides the button entirely.
That's wild. So one checkbox in a totally different settings menu completely sabotages the accelerated checkout.
Yep.
But what about the hardware restrictions? There is a section here about laptops needing to be physically open for the button to work. How does the physical hinge of my laptop have anything to do with my digital checkout?
This involves how the operating system communicates hardware availability to the web browser. It's called clamshell mode.
Clamshell mode.
Yeah. Let's say a shopper has their MacBook closed and connected to an external monitor and a Bluetooth keyboard.
Which is a very common desk setup. I use that.
Very common. But because the laptop lid is physically closed, the Touch ID sensor on the MacBook's keyboard is inaccessible.
Oh, I see.
The operating system knows this. It tells the Safari browser, biometric hardware is currently unavailable. Safari then tells the website's checkout architecture, I cannot authenticate a payment right now. Consequently, the Apple Pay button just grays out or disappears.
So the software is literally adapting to the physical geometry of the hardware in real time.
Exactly.
That is brilliant, but incredibly frustrating if you are a merchant wondering why your desktop conversions just suddenly dropped.
And the only fix for the user is to physically open the laptop lid to expose the sensor or authenticate the payment through a secondary device like an Apple Watch.
Right. And building on these technical hurdles, there's the issue of custom themes. The source specifically mentions missing JavaScript in custom cart drawers.
Oh, right. Many modern high-end e-commerce themes use a slide-out cart drawer on the side of the screen rather than sending the user to a dedicated cart page.
Yeah, you click Add to Cart and a little panel slides out from the right.
Exactly. But that drawer relies on custom code manipulating the DOM, the document object model. If the theme developer did not explicitly inject the necessary JavaScript to call the wallet APIs into that specific drawer environment, the buttons simply won't render. The back-end toggle is on, but the front end lacks the code to actually display it.
Which emphasizes a really vital point here. You cannot just flip a switch in your settings and walk away. You have to physically pull out a real iPhone, a real Android device, and walk through your own checkout flow to verify these API handshakes are actually succeeding.
Absolutely. Test, test, and test again.
But assuming you do get them working, the source outlines one specific scenario where rendering an accelerated button might actually be the worst thing you could possibly do for your business.
Yes. This is the Trojan horse of e-commerce strategy.
The Trojan horse.
Yeah, it forces us to look at exactly where these wallets were placed on your website. They generally surface in 3 distinct locations. The Express checkout section at the very top of the final payment page, inside the cart itself, and on the actual product page, sitting right next to the Add to Cart button.
And the source specifically highlights that third location, the product page, as the danger zone.
It is a massive danger zone.
But why is putting a super fast, frictionless checkout button right next to the product image a bad thing? Isn't the whole goal to speed up the sale?
What's fascinating here is that the very mechanism designed to speed up a sale fundamentally alters the customer journey. When a user clicks an Express Wallet button on a product page, the system assumes they want to buy that single item immediately.
Right.
It grabs their tokenized data, processes the payment, and fires them straight to the confirmation page.
Meaning they completely bypass the shopping cart.
Entirely.
Okay, I want to go back to our physical mall analogy for a second, but let's shift it to a theme park to really illustrate the mechanism of lost revenue here.
Okay, theme park.
Putting an express checkout button on a product page is like giving a customer a VIP exit door right next to the roller coaster.
Ooh, I like this. Go on.
It is an incredible experience for the customer, right? They ride the ride, open a side door, and boom, they are instantly in the parking lot. Fast and easy. But for the theme park, it is an absolute disaster. Because by taking that side door, the customer completely bypassed the gift shop. They bypass the overpriced photo of themselves screaming on the ride. They miss the promotional flyers for the water park next door, and they bypass the candy stand at the exit gates.
That perfectly captures the destruction of average order value.
Yeah.
By allowing the shopper to skip the digital cart, they bypass all of your carefully crafted order bumps.
Yep.
They bypass the progress bar, telling them they're only $10 away from a free shipping threshold. They miss your frequently bought together bundle deals.
So you are directly trading potential multi-item revenue for the guarantee of a single item sale.
Exactly.
And it isn't just about lost upsells either. Bypassing the cart actually breaks functional requirements for certain stores.
Yes, the source notes it bypasses cart-level attributes.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, If your business model requires a customer to check a mandatory terms and conditions box before buying, say, for age-restricted products, or if you need them to select a delivery date from a calendar picker located in the cart, the Product Page Express button bypasses all of that logic.
So the order goes through without the delivery date even attached to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shopify even explicitly lists these dynamic checkout buttons as incompatible with certain currency converters and external checkout apps.
Wow. So this is a massive strategic trade-off. Speed versus average order value. What is the definitive verdict here? How should a store owner configure this?
It entirely depends on your inventory and traffic.
Okay.
If you are selling high-margin, single-item products, maybe an exclusive apparel drop or a unique single SKU gadget, and your traffic is heavily driven by mobile social media ads, turn the product page buttons on.
Because the speed is worth it.
Right. The sheer speed of a one-tap impulse buy will win you more sales than you lose in upsells.
But if your entire profit margin relies on getting people to add 3, 4, or 5 items to their cart,
Then you absolutely must turn the dynamic checkout buttons off at the product level.
period.
Period.
Yeah.
Keep the Express wallet strictly isolated to the final checkout page. Force the customer to walk through the virtual gift shop, let them interact with the cart, see your shipping thresholds, and consider the add-ons.
Right.
Then once they finally click Proceed to Checkout, you offer them the speed and convenience of Shop Pay, Apple Pay, or Google Pay.
Now, the source does mention a quick caveat here for enterprise users. If you are paying for the Shopify Plus tier, you get to cheat the system a little bit.
Yeah, Shopify Plus merchants have access to back-end extensibility. They can use custom apps to write conditional logic.
Oh, nice.
So, for example, they could code the site to hide the Apple Pay button on the product page only if the user has a specific subscription item in their cart. But for the vast majority of merchants on standard plans, it is a binary all-or-nothing choice at the product level.
This has been an incredibly revealing deep dive into what I thought were just 3 boring toggles. Let's synthesize the mission for the listener looking at their own store settings right now.
Sounds good.
The definitive advice from our source material is this. Go into your settings and ensure Shop Pay, Apple Pay, and Google Pay are all turned on at the checkout level.
Because they cost you absolutely nothing in extra fees, and their complementary architectures ensure you catch every hardware variation, from an Android user on Chrome to a Mac user with Touch ID.
But do not assume the software magically works. QA tests them. Take out a real iPhone, open a real Chrome browser on an Android device, and walk through your own checkout flow. Make sure a stray required field or a custom JavaScript drawer isn't secretly hiding the buttons from your mobile traffic.
Or finally, make a deliberate, conscious decision about the Trojan horse. Decide right now whether your business model thrives on single-item speed or if your profit relies on forcing customers through the multi-item cart experience.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Because stepping back from the immediate tactics of APIs and cart logic, there is a much bigger architectural shift happening here that the source data points toward.
There is. By introducing these one-tap checkouts that biometrically authenticate who we are and where we live, we are fundamentally training an entire generation of consumers to expect a completely friction-free internet.
Think about the physical act of typing out your street address. 5 years ago, it was standard. Today, if a website forces me to manually type out my zip code, I get actively annoyed. The cognitive tolerance for data entry is dropping to basically 0.
Which leaves us with a profound question to ponder as we close out this deep dive. We're moving toward a reality where our devices instantly pass secure tokens for our identity, our shipping data, and our payment details without us ever touching a keyboard.
Are we rapidly approaching a future where the traditional e-commerce shopping cart itself becomes entirely obsolete?
It really makes you wonder.
Will the centralized cart be replaced entirely by decentralized instant microtransactions scattered across videos, articles, and social feeds? We started this deep dive staring at 3 little toggles in a Shopify dashboard, but what we're really looking at is the foundational infrastructure of how the future digital economy is going to operate. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Next time you're looking at your own digital storefront, hopefully you'll see those buttons and the APIs powering them with entirely fresh eyes. Take care.